So the Niners are 4-0, and they haven't really had to break a sweat yet in any of the games. They haven't been tested. They're sort of, strutting through the season, but we know it's not going to be like that forever. They know it's not going to be like that forever. Eventually, whatever weaknesses they have will be exposed, and they'll have to address them and improve. And they're already looking at that because upcoming opponents are looking at them too. So what are some areas you think the Niners need to improve? I got two.
Okay.
You can go first if you like.
Let me just say this. Some people say Grant and Lowell are negative. They're haters. What the Niners are 4-0. Why are they doing this? I can tell you right now in the 49ers building, they're self-scouting and they're saying, they do it all the time. That they have to. And they have to be honest with themselves and say, what are our potential problems against Dallas, and what are our weaknesses in general? How can we compensate? Do we need new players? This discussion goes on all the time. So Grant and I are only doing what Shanahan and his coaches might be doing right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Areas where they might need to improve. Cornerback.
I like it. They need another backup.
What do you
there.
think?
We see when Ambry Thomas has to play, he's the first guy off the bench. They fall apart. He falls apart. So I don't know if it's some guy coming off IR soon or some guy they can trade for, but they just need another backup. That's an easy one. Yep.
And what happens is, because the other team has studied the 49ers, the minute Ambry Thomas comes in, they go after him. I mean, it's demonstrable, Iggy. So look, to say they need a backup isn't really deep criticism, but it's an area where they can improve. What were you going to say?
You know how the Steelers didn't really know or prepare for the 49ers week 1?
They didn't go
They
after
had
him.
Ambry Thomas on the field for the whole first half and didn't figure out to go after him until 2 minutes left in the first half when they finally put together that drive. Then the Niners benched him after that. They're like, they found out our secret. We can't. So yeah, that's one. Anyway, I got a couple other ones. On defense, this is a crazy one considering how much the Niners have invested in this one thing and they think it's the most important thing really on a team. Rushing the quarterback. Pass rush. Like they get pressure, they push the pocket, but they don't get a lot of sacks. Like in terms of sack per dropback, they're 28th out of 32 teams. As a team, Bosa has 2 sacks. Javon Hargrave has 3. They couldn't really get much pressure on Josh Dobbs in this last game.
No, they couldn't. They sacked him one time, right?
One time. So I don't know. Maybe this is just an aberration and it'll come together. But right now, the Niners do not have a good pass rush. And it hasn't really cost them because they've faced Josh Dobbs, Daniel Jones, freaking washed up Matthew Stafford, and Kenny Pickett. But eventually, they're going to be facing MVP candidates at quarterback, if not MVPs. And they're going to need more than 1 sack in the game to win that game. So the D-line.
Iggy, why do you think they're not getting sacks? I mean, they thought when they paid Bosa all that money and brought in Hargrave, they would be a sack machine. Do you have any hypothesis about what's going on?
I do. I have a feeling that the defensive coordinator, Steve Wilks, is playing a little conservative. D'Amico was more aggressive. Conservative meaning playing his coverage a little bit more off, saying like, I don't want you to throw deep. I don't want you to beat me down the field. I'll give you some short throws. And I think when you concede short throws and the defense takes them, that negates the pass rush. If there's a quick 8-yard throw available all the time, Bosa can't get there in time. You can get the ball out in like a second or a second and a half. So if you really want to spend all that money on pass rushers and have them impact the game, I think you need to be a little bit more aggressive with your coverage, play some, man-to-man bump and run coverage. Don't give up quick passes. Make the quarterback drop back, look around, hold it, find someone who won, and then throw. Because at that point, the pass rush can actually impact the game. But at the same time, the Niners giving up like 17 points a game, so you can't really knock them.
So it's interesting, though, in a way, what you're saying is Wilkes' philosophy goes against the strength of their defensive line.
I think so. If you really want to get the most out of a great pass rush, you can't let the quarterback just get rid of the ball in a second and a half every play. Because no one's going to get to the quarterback in a second and a half, not even Bosa. You give him 2.5 seconds, you're probably going to get that sack.
Interesting. And this Josh Dobbs had a lot of time. And
Yeah.
for a backup, he played a good game and he played a courageous game.
Yeah, he was disciplined and taking the underneath throws, and he did hit some throws down the field. And then when the Niners gave him
Yeah.
scramble lanes, he took them.
Yeah.
There's another thing the Niners
Iggy,
need to improve. Go ahead.
I want to ask you, you're talking about sacks. How many sacks does Eric Armstead have?
Can you guess?
One.
0.
Really?
Let me make sure. Hold on. Eric Armstead. How many sacks? Let me look it up. Oh yeah, he's 0. He had 0 last year too. Yeah.
Okay.
See, that's the problem. They're paying him a lot of money. They need him to like sack the quarterback. Bosa has 1.
Both
So
has one sack.
Bosa has 1 sack. All right, I got another area the Niners need to improve, and I don't know that they will. It's the offensive line. I think a lot of people
Well,
feel like, well, hey, the Niners are scoring so many points, the offensive line must not be an issue. I don't look at it that way. I don't think it's a good offensive line at all, other than Trent Williams. I think everyone else is either average or subpar, and you can see it when they do anything. When they run the ball, McCaffrey's good, but none of the other running backs are. Mitchell's struggling, Mason's struggling. They're all averaging less than 4 yards a carry. McCaffrey's the one averaging more than 5. He's good. And then when they drop back to pass, it's not that Brock Purdy always has all the time in the world. He's just really good at avoiding pressure. He can step up in the pocket. He can avoid it. He can extend plays. I think both McCaffrey and Purdy are sort of working around this offensive line that hasn't had to face like a playoff defense yet, but it's coming this week. And it's going to be interesting to see what McCaffrey and Purdy can do behind this particular offensive line in a really big game. This is the test this week for the O-line.
Iggy, do you think they have enough depth at running back?
Yeah. I don't think this is a running back issue. I think Mason's good. I think Mitchell's good. I think Ty Davis Price is good enough. I think this is an offensive line issue. I think it's an offensive line issue.
And what's interesting about it, they don't show any urgency in wanting to fix it.
No, they think it's good enough and they can work around it. And they would say, look, we've scored 30 points in every game and 35 in the last one. Yeah, that's true. But what's going to happen, against Philly, Dallas, the 2 teams in the NFC that matter, we'll see this week. I think this is going to be a big eye-opener for the Niners, but it's hard to add offensive linemen mid-season. They're very large people. Every team needs them. There's not a surplus. So I don't know. These guys got to improve now.
For what it's worth, when the Niners were Super Bowl winners, I was going to say really good, but this team is really good. So I'm going to say when they were Super Bowl winners, Bob McKittrick was the great offensive line coach, and they weren't always very high draft choices. Bill, he did a lot of that too, where they were a little lower. And he had the confidence, although he and Bob didn't like each other at all, he had the confidence that Bob could teach them up, and he did. Do you feel that these guys are being taught up?
I believe that their coach is very good, very, very good. But I don't know how much talent they're really giving him. And I know that when the Niners were winning Super Bowls, they had Bubba Paris at left tackle. He was the 29th pick in the draft. And they had Harris Barton at right tackle. He was the 22nd pick in the draft. So, yeah, I'm sure they could get by with guards and centers who weren't the highest picks. But when it came to the offensive tackles, the Niners had 2 highly drafted athletes. I mean, Harris Barton, they took a right tackle to 22nd pick and held on to him for like 10 years. You remember Harris Barton. He was an all-pro. I mean, he was really good, right?
He was very good, yes.
Yeah. He's in Colton McKivitz, no offense. I mean, Colton McKivitz was a 5th-round pick. Harris Barton was a 1st-round pick. I think this is sort of by design with the Niners. They just don't take the offensive line seriously. They feel like if they have a left tackle and a great tight end running back and 2 wide receivers, they'll be at fullback, that's enough. Maybe. I guess most teams it is. So far, the season's been.
I got another question for you.
Another
Today, who's more important to the 49ers, McCaffrey or Purdy?
McCaffrey.
Purdy.
Why? Because he's the quarterback. Okay.
And he's the quarterback, and he's performing at a superior. He's performing at. I'd give him an A. He's performing at an A level. Why do you say McCaffrey?
Well, if you had to, McCaffrey might be the MVP of the league right now. And
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
he's probably getting more votes than Purdy, which is speaks to that. I mean, I think McCaffrey's a better player. He's a bigger threat. He gets the ball more.
yeah,
Doesn't play as important of a position, but his backup Mitchell's averaging 3.3 yards per carry. Their running game might fall apart entirely without Christian McCaffrey.
okay.
If they didn't have Purdy, then Sam Darnold will come in, and Sam Darnold's really good.
He's the next Steve Young, we know.
He's the next Steve Young. It's an interesting question to be. It would actually be fun to know. We haven't seen Purdy play a game without McCaffrey, and we haven't seen McCaffrey play a game with Sam Darnold. That would be interesting to find out.
Could we agree, Iggy, that they need them both?
Yeah, and this team had a pretty middling offense until Purdy and McCaffrey stepped up.
Right.
Now the offense is among the best, so I think they're.
Iggy, it's among the best, and I got to say, it's a pleasure to watch. And Shanahan is really, so far, almost a quarter of the season in, doing a beautiful job with what he has.
Yeah, he has so much confidence in those two players,
Yeah.
and that permeates all of his play calling, and it brings out the best in him.